scream and shout with all your might.
Let's get the show on the road.
Dig in your heels and hold on tight. Either you are wrong or I am right.
Don't forget the ever-present third possibility. You are wrong, and I am right. Thank you. And you know, this has stuck in my ass. Just like that horse's dick stuck in the ass of that guy who died. Randy, did you see this? About the guy who was being fucked up the ass by a horse and died from it? No, I'm serious. I am not kidding you. Where is the information here? A man dies in Washington State after having sex with a horse. The man died. A horrified world soon learned of a perforated colon. A perforated colon can mean only one thing. The horse was the active partner, and the man, a 45-year-old resident of Seattle, had literally been fucked to death. Now, I've always wondered about people in Seattle. And this has confirmed my beliefs. How's this sound? Because I hear some feedback in my speakers here. Yeah, that waveform looks a little bit better. Okay, so now we've talked about men in Seattle allowing themselves to be fucked to death by a horse. Let's talk about some other things that should be put to death. First of all, I'm going into the trash can. Oh yes, thank you, Randy. Today is still the 14th of August. Welcome to Stating the Obvious, brought to you by the Cynical Libertarian Society. I am Skippy. In the control room is the lovely, the adorable Randy. I am here to explain to you people why you are stupid, and quite possibly cause just one person somewhere out there to remove their head from their ass. In the last edition of Stating the Obvious, I read this letter from Fortune Small Business Magazine from Lee Allen. I just dug this out of the trash can, where this stupid motherfucker from California was talking about the American with Disabilities Act, and where he writes, anyone who opens a business and purchases a business license signs his name to the license, which states that he has obtained and read all the laws and is in total compliance with them. This is referring to the Americans with Disabilities Act. These laws are so very necessary to our way of life in America. It is laws like this that make America the greatest nation in the world in which to live, and why all the peoples of all other nations want to live in America. As I pointed out, this is exactly the kind of fucking cluelessness. Yeah? Now, Randy's counting the number of times I've used the word fuck in this edition of Stating the Obvious. Let me warn you right now, it's only going to go up. Now, we're not talking about fucking horses either. I did this thing called research. Unlike the journalistic staff at the Rocky Mountain Bullhorn, who spends their time sitting around the office putting dolls in compromising positions with each other, and on the rare occasions they do go out to research a news story, they talk to 19-year-old children who live with their mother. I, unlike the journalist at the Rocky Mountain Bullshit, went to the library and did some actual research. I dug up a copy of the Americans. I always want to say singular, the Americans with Disabilities Act. I have found that Title I is 87 pages long, Title II is 92 pages long, Title III is 177 pages long. After that, there are approximately another 300 pages of resource list and appendix to include building codes, how much space you have to have around a shitter, and the size of your parking lot spaces. This is what Lee Allen, thinks everybody who owns a business has time to sit around and read 700 pages of bullshit. You know, Lee, some people are busy actually contributing to the economy, not writing whiny little letters about how the things that make America great are government interference. While I was at the library, I did a little research on the other thing that pissed me off. UN Emergency Relief Coordinator Jan Egeland, who gives a fuck? Jan said, "It is beyond me why we are so stingy, really." Now, she denied that she was talking about the United States, because according to the statistics, there's your clue that some lying is about to come up, because somebody's using statistics. According to these statistics, among the 30th, I read to you from the Rocky Mountain bullshit, among the 30 yeah, I'm still in a good mood right now. I'm going to just wait once I get started. What is... Okay. Oof. Among the 30 wealthiest nations, the U.S. donates the least of its gross national product, 0.14% to foreign assistance, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And I said this before at the end of the last edition of Stating the Obvious, but now I'm going to say it again, because now I have something that people at the Bullhorn don't have. I have research. You see, instead of sitting here in my office at the Cynical Libertarian Society estate here, I went outside into the world, see, where there's sunshine and trees and flowers and other people and all these other things. And as I walked through the world, I went to this building, and it's called the library. And while I was at the library, I did this thing called research. Now, see, if I had a degree in journalism, I could have sat here in my office and taken little dolls and made them have sex with each other, which is what the people at the Bullhorn do. No. I went out and I did research. Let me explain to you people again why the United States contributes such a tiny amount of its gross domestic product compared to the other countries which donate so much. Because you see, folks, the GDP for the United States in 2003 was $10,980 billion. 0.14% of that translates into $15.372 billion. The country that came the closest to us in GDP was China, with its $6,449 billion. After that, Japan, with its $3,567 billion. After that, India, $3,022 billion. And next on the list, the first, how should we say it, Western/Caucasian country, Germany, $2,271 billion. We contributed 0.14% of our GDP. If Germany, in order for Germany to contribute the same amount of money, $15.372 billion, that would be 6.6% of their GDP. Oh, and by the way, the Canadian fuckheads to our north, their GDP in 2003 was $958 billion. A joke. A true joke. We should just nuke Canada now. Folks, the reason that the United States contributes a smaller percentage of their GDP to the rest of the world is because our GDP is so much fucking bigger than yours. Okay? China is the only country that comes close to producing what we produce in the United States. And when you try, and of course the entire reason this was put in, this takes us back to the manipulation of statistics. And of course, let me plug the book, How to Lie with Statistics, by, what's this guy's name? Daryl Huff. You need to read this book, because this is exactly what these people are doing. They put it into a percentage, knowing that it would make America's percentage smaller than everyone else's, and thus try to incriminate us. So let me point out, for the stupid fucking people out there, like this bitch Jan, and like all you stupid reporters at the bullshit, and all you other fucking liberals, and all you other America haters, and all you other cocksuckers out there, the reason we gave less money as a percentage of our GDP is because our GDP, just like our dicks, is so much fucking bigger than yours. Not only that, but let's think about something. When that tsunami hit and everybody's whining about how America is not contributing enough money, let me ask you something. All that equipment that was flown over there to help those people was flown over there on airplanes. How many of those airplanes were built in the United States? How many of that fuel put in those airplanes was refined in the United States? How many of those pilots were trained in the United States? How many of those people were from the United States? How many of the fucking supplies you sent over there came from the United States? How much of the food you took over there to feed those people came from the United States? Let me explain something to you little motherfuckers out there. If it wasn't for the United States, all you other cocksuckers on this planet would be a bunch of poor little starving people sniveling, crawling around in the mud trying to figure out where your next motherfucking meal came from. The technology that alerted the world that the tsunami even happened, the television, the satellites, the radio, all that shit, it was all invented in the motherfucking United States. Yeah, okay, the Soviets put the first satellite up. Whoop-de-doo, is a little thing that beeped. Who brought global communication to the world? Was it Ethiopia? No. Was it France? No. Was it Russia? No. Was it Finland? No. It was the motherfucking United States. The shit that was shipped over there was built in the United States. The planes and the boats that took it there, the United States. The shit that was bought and taken there was from the United States. I am tired of you little motherfuckers out there bashing this country. So why don't you all go fuck yourselves, alright? It is not our responsibility to pay for everything in this goddamn world. We have given you motherfuckers. It's because of us. It's because of the advances made in science and technology and producing food and everything else here in the United States, which we happily share with all you little cocksuckers in these other countries where men don't brush their teeth and women don't shave their legs. All of these things that make your pathetic, sad, worthless little lives as good as they are. And all you want to do is sit around and whine that the United States doesn't give enough money. This country has motherfucking police forced the world longer than I can remember, which we shouldn't be doing. World War II, we should let you motherfuckers kill each other. We should let Hitler have Europe. World War I, we should have let you motherfuckers kill each other. World War III, the Cold War, fuck it. If it had been me, let the goddamn Russians have Europe. All you motherfuckers could be living in Eastern Europe. All of you could be living in filthy, nasty, contaminated cesspools of shit because the Soviets didn't care about the environment. All of you people could be sitting there in your house at any minute the door gets kicked down and the fucking KGB comes in and kills you because you said something about the government that they didn't like. All of you people could be living in a goddamn communist country right now with no automobiles, no economic freedom, and wondering where the fuck you're going to get a loaf of bread before your children starve. But no, you're not. And you know why? It's because of us. It's because of the United States of America. It's because the people in this country have paid motherfucking taxes and sent their children off to war and been fucked over by our politicians, Republican and Democrat alike, over and over and over. And in spite of all the bullshit that happens in this country, in spite of idiots like George Bush and Bill Clinton and anybody who's a Republican, anybody who's a Democrat, and in spite of all the shit that we got going on, we are still the greatest fucking nation on this planet. You motherfuckers out there still owe us for everything you have. So kiss my motherfucking ass, bitch. Are we clear on this? Special report I assume when the Bullhorn says that they have a special report, they mean that in the sense of a, special ed. I assume this report rode the short bus. This is about the tsunami. Gaia, goddess of earth. It always amazes me the way the atheist left, the atheist left refuses to believe in God because that's too far of a concept. Yet, these very same people believe that the planet Earth is a living creature, that it's a goddess, that it's this big living woman, and we'll call it Gaia, and oh, it's so touchy-feely. God, of course, cannot possibly be true, but they believe the Earth is alive. Gaia, goddess of Earth, could not have picked a more appropriate time and place to send us a message of her hidden powers. The message is that we are Indians and Indonesians, Sri Lankans and Swedes, Thais and Moldavian only secondarily. We are first and foremost citizens and children of the earth, sharing a common fate of shared disaster and a common desire to help and heal. The goddess of earth is not sending anything. Okay, the reason the tsunami happened is because these things called tectonic plates moved and caused an underwater earthquake, which caused a ripple to happen in the ocean, which made a big wave. Okay? See, there's this thing, it's called science. It's the thing that when you flip the switch and the light comes on, that's science. See, it's not magic in the little light bulb. While the immediate tragedy faced by millions must be our first response, there are some long-term lessons the tsunami brings to us. We need to listen to Gaia. The first lesson is about development in coastal regions. Respect for fragility and vulnerability of our coastal ecosystems has been sacrificed for hotels and holiday resorts, shrimp farms and refineries. Mangroves and coral reefs have been relentlessly destroyed, taking away the protective barriers to storms, cyclones, hurricanes, and tsunamis. Now let's think about this a second. Who is it that builds houses on beaches? Who is it that builds on beaches? Well, it's rich people. And while many of those rich people are certainly rich, evil, capitalistic Republicans, we can't deny that. I'm sure Donald Trump has some hotels on beaches somewhere, right, Randy? With his bad hair. Is Donald Trump a Republican? I have no clue either. He probably votes Republican. I'm guessing. Randy's saying we could try to research that, or we could just play with some dolls and make them have sex. Yeah, give me some dolls. We'll have the dolls fuck. Do we have a horse doll? That would be great, because then we could make the horse doll fuck the little Howard Dean doll. Yeah, then we'd be like real journalists, like the ones at the Bullhorn. For those of you who don't understand the joke about the dolls fucking, you need to listen to the edition of Stating the Obvious prior to this one, because I'm not going to repeat it. Then you will understand. Yeah, a lot of these beach homes, a lot of this beach development is, of course, done by rich liberal actors. I never noticed the left telling the rich liberal actors that they can't have their beachfront homes. But you see, the rest of us were not allowed to. The indigenous tribes of... Here's more of these words that I can't say. Yes, thank you, Randy. I'll do some creative editing. The indigenous tribes in the area where the tsunami hit... who live with a light ecological footprint, had the lowest casualties, even though in the Indian subcontinent they were closest to the epicenter of the earthquake. The government of Kerala, observing that the tsunami left less destruction in regions protected by mangroves than barren and exposed beaches, has started an $8.5 million project for insulating Kerala's coast against tidal surges and mangroves. I wonder where that $8.5 million is coming from. I wonder how much of that is paid for by the American taxpayers. Now look, the reason I read this little passage is that Vandana Shiva, who writes this, is writing this as if this is some kind of news flash. The fact that the people who live with the light ecological footprint had the lowest casualties is very simple. In developed regions, people live in especially along this area. There's all these people in these giant hotels and resorts and all this other crap. Now, when a giant wave hits a 14-story building, you have a lot of really heavy stuff flying all over the place because the building's made of heavy stuff. When you have a bunch of indigenous people who live in huts and a giant wave hits the hut, there's not huge pieces of concrete flying around. So obviously, more of them are going to survive because there's less hazardous things for them to impact with. And for those of you who are stupid, this is not an insult to the indigenous people. This is just common sense. I mean, if a tsunami's coming, I don't give a shit how big the building you're in is. It's probably going to get washed away. So in this case, it probably makes a lot more sense to be in a hut made out of wood or grass or whatever than it does to be in a concrete building. Because I would rather get hit by a big log than by a concrete pillar. This is just common sense, people. And then this thing about how the regions protected by mangroves were less destroyed than the areas that had exposed beaches. I mean, again, it's like no shit. I mean, which part? Of course, the places that had trees and stuff growing there were less damaged than the places that were open. I mean, it's just like a fucking windbreak, you know? Well, actually, probably some of you don't know. Some of you live in the city and don't know a fucking thing about agriculture. Some of you think that food actually comes from the grocery store. If you have large open fields and you put things in them and the wind blows, the wind pushes the soil around, it fucks things up. So in between your fields, you plant windbreaks. You put trees and you put bushes so that you form these natural thick barriers that break the wind up. That way the wind doesn't blow as much of the soil and you don't have as much erosion. It's the same fucking concept. If a giant wave is coming in and there's an empty beach, obviously it's going to smack the hell out of the beach, yank a bunch of shit off and do a lot of destruction. If the beach is broken up with trees and vegetation and other natural matter, then the wave is going to be broken up and there's going to be less damage to the surrounding area. If you needed the Earth Goddess to tell you this lesson, maybe you should put down your fucking tarot cards, put out your candles, go to the library, and read a fucking book. My point here isn't that the bitch is wrong about what she writes. My point here is that why is she acting like this is news? Anybody who's not completely stupid could have told you these things. The second lesson that the tsunami teaches us is that a world organized around markets and profits, forgetting nature and people, is ill-equipped to deal with disasters. Did I not just discuss how much money the United States is pouring in to this effort? Did I not just point out how the technology getting the relief over there comes from the United States? How the food, how the equipment being taken over there? Because, you know, and to say that a world which, what are her exact words here? Organized around markets and profits is not prepared to cope with disaster. So you're saying that if we were all third world countries where people were starving to death and there was no wealth, somehow we would be better able to deal with this? Excuse me, bitch. The reason that those people who got hit by that tsunami got as much relief as they did as soon as they did after it happened was because rich Western capitalist countries like the United States were able to channel money and wealth and market and profit into getting help to those people. If the whole world was composed of third world countries where people starved to death in the street the way stupid whores like you want the world to be, there would be no disaster relief, there would be no famine relief, there would be no tsunami relief. These people over there would still, months and months later, still be laying there starving to death without a Band-Aid or a bowl of rice or clean water. It is exactly the wealth, the economic wealth and the economic power of the United States that made the tsunami relief possible. I'm tired of this constant attack on the United States and this constant attack on the free market system because the United States, well, yeah, that's true, we don't exactly have a free market system anymore. But we have, actually, whether or not we have the freest market system is actually questionable. when you compare some particular details to some other countries. But the point is, it is our economic wealth and our economic power here in the United States that has made this whole relief for these motherfuckers over there possible. So, fuck you. She goes on to write, animals and indigenous communities had the intelligence to anticipate the tsunami and protect themselves. She offers no evidence at all for this statement. Animals, of course, are, widely known to get antsy when earthquakes and things are coming. To tell me the animals knew that something was up, I can believe that. But the indigenous population, she offers no evidence of any of the indigenous populations sitting around their village, and to think of the word there, sitting around their village, and suddenly one of them says, something tells me there's about to be a giant tsunami coming. We should move further inland. I see no evidence for this. At least not in her article. If the evidence... See, this is the other difference between me and journalists. When you hear me talking, I offer actual evidence. I love when people write articles like this, and they say things like this, but they offer no evidence whatsoever. They just say it, and you're just supposed to believe it. Why, it must be true. It's in the bullshit. I mean, these are reporters, right? They're journalists. Their sources are 19-year-old children who live at home with their parents. It can't possibly not be true. The last line. We need to revisit our dominant concepts of intelligence and information and take lessons from Gaia about living intelligently on the planet. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Have you found it yet? I have Randy searching the internet. I've heard that there... Okay, so about the guy who was fucked to death by the horse. I read that he was videotaping his sex act with the horse, and that the videotape has made it onto the internet as a video file. That's Randy's job at the moment. She's supposed to be searching the internet to find... Oh, trust me. Oh, yes. Trust me, folks, if we find it, it will be posted on the website here. What I want to know is this. The guy who was fucked to death by the horse from the ruptured colon. I wonder if he was a Republican or a Democrat. I don't know. Seattle, I mean, that's as Democrat. Seattle, Washington, that's as Democrat territory as you can get. Which is weird, because isn't that also the home of Starbucks coffee? Which, of course, Democrats hate. A strange, strange thing. What do I have here? University of Northern Colorado faculty are prepared to enter talks with the school's administration about their salaries. According to Greeley Tribune, professors haven't received a raise in 3 years. The university said it doesn't have the cash, but that didn't stop several UNC administrators from getting fat bonuses last year. Yeah, I talked about this in... No, sorry, I was looking at something else. I talked about this in the last edition of STO, where the UNC professors were told there was no money, but then, of course, the administrators gave themselves a big raise. I can, of course, relate to this, as I work at CSU. We went 2 years without a raise, although I noticed they had plenty of money for the inauguration ceremony of CSU's new president, President Larry Penley, who looks amazingly like Mr. Garrison from South Park. It's frightening how much CSU president looks like. Our CSU president, Penley, looks like Mr. Garrison from South Park. Sorry, folks, that was a water break. What have I got here? This is more whining about voting. Okay, let me launch into this. Getting regular. This is from Michael Callahan. Michael Callahan is a resident of Larimer County. This is also from the Rocky Mountain Bullhorn. Was the election in 2004 more accurate than that of 2000? Who knows? Without sufficient methods to protect the election process, it is difficult to prove or refute if an election is accurate and just. However, you'll notice that this difficulty in proving or refuting whether or not the election was just has not stopped Democrats from continuously asserting the election was stolen. While I personally don't know the authenticity of voting irregularities that were reported in other states, especially since it is difficult to truly verify voting results that exist in databases rather than on paper, I did observe several voting irregularities locally, and I hypothesize that additional cases occurred elsewhere. Now, he is about to launch into a litany of irregularities which he observed. Now, my first question is, who is he to make the determination that these things are irregularities? Second of all, what is he doing skulking about the election places? And third of all, what is this I hypothesize additional cases occurred elsewhere? If I'm walking down the street and I see a man having sex with a horse, and the horse ruptures his colon and kills him, how am I entitled to just from that simply hypothesize that in other places there are men having sex with horses and getting their colons ruptured? I mean, can I legitimately do that? Is that now considered journalistic integrity to see something happening and just hypothesize it's happening other places and not have to go out and gather any, say, evidence to support your idea that this is happening in other places, but no, to just hypothesize it because you saw it? Blah, blah, blah. He writes, I find it odd that Diebold manufactures an ATM machine that prints a receipt, but it does not aggressively market and manufacture any election voting machine that does the same. We must change electronic voting machine requirements, and as a start, we should pass legislation to require a paper receipt and random paper recounts to verify election accuracy. Now, this is something I've had a problem with for a while. This whole thing about getting a paper receipt for your ballot. My point on this is simply this. Even if you get a receipt, you can print one thing on the receipt, but the computer can send your vote to something else. So say you vote for John Kerry. Okay, the printer in the computer prints voted for John Kerry, but the software can still tally your vote for George Bush. Now, they're saying, well, the way we print this, we have the ballots, and we do random recounts or random checks or whatever. Why? Why not just eliminate the fucking computer and do everything on paper? Because if we're going to sit around randomly doing recounts of the paper receipts, wouldn't it make more sense to just use paper in the first place? But this is a problem with our society where everybody is so fucking hung up on computers that we think, oh, and how many people out there want us to vote over the internet? That is going to be a goddamn disaster. Democrats think that their election got stolen from them now? You wait until we're voting over the internet. The internet, oh yeah, that's real secure. How many times do major websites out there get hacked and credit card numbers get stolen? How many viruses are floating around? Voting over the internet is never going to work. Voting by computer is only slightly less silly than voting over the internet. Just use a goddamn piece of paper. But remember, this is the society where when you go into the store and you want to buy a cup of coffee, if the fucking cash register is broken, the clerk can't sell you a cup of coffee because they're too stupid to make change without the fucking cash register to tell them that if you bought a coffee for $1.37 and you give them a $5 bill, how much change to give you. We could eliminate this whole goddamn problem by getting rid of electronic voting. Why do we have electronic voting? Some people say, well, we get the results faster. What's the goddamn rush? You have the election on November the 2nd. I mean, if you don't have the election results by 3 o'clock the next morning, it's not like the country's going to disappear. So what if it takes 3 or 4 fucking days to count the ballots? Is who the President of the United States is really so goddamn important that you people out there can't go a couple of days while they count the fucking ballots? What's the need for speed here? It's you idiots out there who are pushing for all of this speed that are causing all of these problems, that are causing your so-called lost, stolen, fraudulent elections. If we just everybody used a goddamn piece of paper, we wouldn't have this problem. I continue reading. We have now some examples here of the what's his word? The irregularities he observed, which he is now extrapolating and hypothesizing are occurring other places in the country. In one case, a single mother left the Harmony Market voting center with her 2 small children because of long lines. Later, she visited a second polling place, waited in line, and displayed her driver's license, but she was denied the right to vote since she didn't have a voter registration card, although she was registered. She was not even offered a chance to cast a provisional ballot. Unaware of how to correct the problem, she left without voting. First of all, why is Michael stalking this woman as she goes from one voting center to another? Or is he stalking her small children and thinking, wow, if I was a horse and they were men from Seattle, I could fuck them in the ass and bust their colon and kill them? Okay, so she displayed her, she was denied the right since she didn't have a voter registration card. Okay, are you required to have a voter registration card to vote? If you are, then why should she be allowed to vote? She didn't have the voter registration card. Now, if you're not required to have a voter registration card in your dainty little hand to vote, then okay, sure, it's fucked up. She was not even offered a chance to cast a provisional ballot. Well, why should she be offered the chance? If she wasn't eligible to vote, why should she get to fucking vote? Unaware of how to correct the problem, she left without voting. Unaware, since 4 years ago, it's totally unaware. She had no idea that the election would take place on November the 2nd. Just she woke up that morning and there it was. Nobody had warned her, and she just decided to go, you know what? If you give a fuck about casting a vote, then maybe before the day you're supposed to vote happens, you do a little research, try to find out what you have to do to vote, all these other things. If you just show up there and you don't have a clue what the fuck's going on, obviously you can't be very interested in the process, you can't be very educated about the process, and you know what? Why should somebody that stupid, that unmotivated, that unknowledgeable be allowed to vote in the first place? I submit that not allowing this woman to vote was a good thing, because she probably would have voted for Kerry, or she probably would have voted for, was Ralph Nader on the ballot here? She probably would have, voted for Ralph Nader and thought she was voting for Kerry, like those idiots down in Florida. Well, I meant to vote for Al Gore, but I voted for Patrick Buchanan because I got confused about the ballot. Our next irregularity. Also on Election Day, I visited 2 different homes. What is this guy doing? Stalking people? Also on Election Day, I visited 2 different homes just north of the Riverside Railroad tracks in a predominantly Latino community. Here come the charges of racism. 2 Latino men professed that they had voted earlier in the day. However, their names were listed on the 4 p.m. Larimer County voting records indicating they had not voted. Were their votes counted, or did they really fail to vote? Well, I don't know. You're supposed to be a journalist. Why don't you investigate it? Or wait, are you too busy playing with your dolls? In the last election, 15 of the 30 Larimer County voting centers were located in predominantly Christian churches. Because, of course, here in Fort Collins, Colorado, People's Republic of, the most white bread fucking place I have ever lived in my life, we have a whole lot of churches that aren't Christian. I mean, what the fuck other kind of church do you expect to find in Fort Collins besides a Christian church? It's Fort Collins. For those of you who don't live here, Fort Collins loves to talk about how multicultural and tolerant it is. Because, we've got 27 black people in town? Okay, in my life, I've lived in Georgia, Texas, New Mexico, been to a few other places. Of every place I have ever been in my life, this is the most fucking white bread cracker place I have ever been. I'm serious. There's like 27 black people in this town. Everybody here is either a Christian or a Wicca. There's a lot of Wiccas around here. Or an atheist. I mean, what the fuck kind of church do you expect to find in Fort Collins besides a Christian church? Coincidentally, let me get back to reading here. Coincidentally, in the 2004 election, Karl Rove orchestrated a huge evangelical Christian turnout. Isn't it convenient to get Christians to the polls when the polls happen to be in their very own church? The Larimer County Election Board didn't locate voting centers in gun clubs, synagogues, mosques, or Buddhist temples. Well, we don't have any of those around here. We certainly don't have any gun clubs because, of course, here in the People's Republic of Fort Collins, we hate guns. If we have a synagogue, I don't know about it. If we have a mosque, I don't know about it. If we have any Buddhist temples, I don't know about it. Where would you like to have the fucking voting centers out? Aside from that, they're not all in churches. They're also in public schools. I mean, where would you like... if you're going to have a voting center, it has to be someplace that people can get to. It's got to be someplace with a big parking lot. It's got to be someplace that has lots of room to sit the shit up and have all the people standing in line. Schools, churches, they tend to fit that description. Now, and then what is this implication that it's convenient to get the Christians to the polls? So are you saying that the people who aren't Christians, somehow or another, they're like too stupid to find the church? I mean, the churches usually stick out. You know, they've got those big, tall steeple things, and they're real fancy looking, and there's usually a big cross somewhere. I mean, if you can't find the fucking church to vote, are you really smart enough and motivated enough to be allowed to vote in the first place? I submit you're not. Again, this is a classic example. If you can't find the church to vote because you don't go to the church, then you shouldn't be voting anyhow. I continue reading. Finally, on Election Day, I received 2 door hangers that instructed me to vote at a school that was not really a voting center. Did the distributor of this incorrect information use a political party address list and intentionally mislead members of that party to the wrong polling place? Or was it an accident? Well, Michael, are you a fucking journalist? Or what? Why don't you investigate? Actually, I don't think Michael is a journalist, because it simply says, Michael Callahan is a resident of Larimer County. So maybe he doesn't have dolls having sex with each other in his office. But my question is this, if he had time to write all this, why didn't he investigate? Why didn't he, like, maybe look at his neighbors' doors and see if they... Oh, but wait, he probably, like most Democrats, he's not tolerant. I'm sure he doesn't have any neighbors who are Republicans, because I'm sure he lives in an area of town where only Democrats are allowed. But, I mean, seriously, if you give a shit so much, why don't you investigate? Why don't you figure out where those flyers came from and find out if where those flyers went? Who printed them? Why don't you investigate? Why don't you gather some evidence for your wild-ass fucking accusations? Because the answer is, it's easier for you to make wild-ass accusations that support your weird little fantasy world that you, as a liberal Democrat fuckhead, are stuck in, than it is for you to go out and actually search for evidence, because a search for evidence would reveal nothing that supports your dumb fucking opinion. Do you find the... Oops, screensaver kicked on. No, we're good. Did you find the horse fucking video yet? No horse fucking video. Randy, I am very disappointed. Hey, I heard it was out there. If you don't find it, I am going to be really upset. Alright. Flipping through here, trying to see what's next. What is this? Walmart fighting people trying to get unionized, and they won. Gee, what a surprise. Walmart is opposed to its employees making money. There's a shocking... I have a great Walmart article in here later on where a liberal reporter expresses shock, outright shock, that Walmart is interested in profits. It's amazing how these people can be so disconnected from reality. With no less than 6 television cameras and a flurry of reporters' pens and flashbulbs trained upon him, Colorado State University President Larry Penley, who looks just like Mr. Garrison, accepted the final recommendations of the college's alcohol task force in a stiff and staged press conference on Tuesday, February the 1st. The task force, which Penley convened in September after CSU student Samantha Spady died of alcohol poisoning, issued 41 suggestions, 3 of which Penley immediately accepted. They include a mandatory transition program for all sophomores moving off campus. In other words, a political and intellectual indoctrination program, coupled with propaganda against the evils of alcohol. An expansion of existing substance abuse intervention programs. In other words, spending more of my tax and tuition money to interfere in people's private and personal lives against their wishes. And an outreach program in which Penley's administration will deliver the university's experience with alcohol troubles to other schools. Because, so here's another, this is beautiful. Hey, we managed to kill one of our students with alcohol poisoning, so we'll come to other schools and tell you how to avoid it. Because we're obviously experts. We've killed off, actually, after Spady died, another person died of alcohol poisoning. So, I mean, we're 2, man. We got 2 dead kids from alcohol poisoning. We at CSU are obviously experts on how to not kill children with alcohol poisoning. This kills me. Somewhere, it's in the pile. I'm pretty sure I haven't talked about this yet. Samantha Spady's parents are setting up this foundation to help, how should I say this, to help prevent children from killing themselves from alcohol poisoning. And my comment on this would be, right, great, so you guys managed to let your daughter die from alcohol poisoning. Obviously you're experts on how to keep children from drinking themselves to death. Why is it that in America we take people who are complete failures at something, in this example, preventing your daughter from drinking herself to death, and we send them out to teach other people how to do the things that they failed at doing? I mean, someone comes to me and says, hey, I built a house, but the house collapsed, so let me help you build your house? I would say no. But in America, when somebody comes up to you and says, our daughter drank herself to death and died from alcohol poisoning because she was so stupid that she didn't recognize that drinking 20 beers will kill you, so let us help you prevent your child from drinking himself to death, I would look at them and say, no, get the fuck out of here. If you could help people not drink themselves to death, then your dumbass daughter would be alive, wouldn't she? Only in America. Only in liberal, Democrat, and conservative Republican America do we allow people who are failures to teach other people how to succeed. Then we wonder why things are fucked up in this country. The rest of that article is unnecessary. Ward Churchill resigned. Oh boy. The Ward Churchill incident. Let me have I done the Ward Churchill thing? I don't think I have. Oh, Coffee and Cigarettes. That was a very weird movie. If any of you out there have not seen Coffee and Cigarettes, you might want to watch it, but be prepared. It's going to be strange, and you'll not want to watch it again, I don't think. The Ward Churchill. I can sum this one up pretty quick. Here's the deal on Ward Churchill. Should Ward Churchill have been fired, punished, or anything else for the crap that he wrote in his little report? Absolutely not. If those are the things he wants to write, and if that's what he thinks is true, then great. I mean, that's called freedom of speech. Republicans need to recognize that people get freedom of speech even when they're idiots. Of course, Democrats also need to recognize that even idiots get freedom of speech. However, after Churchill drew all his attention to himself, it is discovered that he lied about being an American Indian. He lied about his service in Vietnam. Oh, look, on my next article I have marked is an editorial entitled In Defense of Ward Churchill. Oh, this is interesting. excuse me, I got sidetracked. After it came to light that he lied about his service in Vietnam, after it came to light that he lied about being an American Indian, after it came to light that he lied about whatever else he lied about, should he have been fired and or punished for those things? Absolutely. Without a doubt. So remember, one of the things the liberal establishment is always telling us is how you're not supposed to lie, how, integrity, honesty, all this other horse shit. And here we have Ward Churchill lying, not just lying, but lying about being an American Indian. It seems to me that would be a great crime. Because I get in trouble when I check off African American on the check boxes, on the equal opportunity / diversity forums and everything, and they say, "You're not African American." I say, "Sure I am." The Homo sapiens sapiens arose in Africa, and from there spread to the rest of the world. All of us are descended from Africans. We're all Africans. I'm in America. I'm descended from Africans. That makes me an African American. They get pissed off. They do. I'm trying to think. Do I have time to go into the defense of Ward Churchill here? How much time do we have, Randy? Not enough. Yeah, okay. So in the next edition, we will cover this in the defense of Ward Churchill. What else do we got coming up? Fake plastic love. Here's a concept. Instead of having sex with a horse, use fake plastic love. Because fake plastic love is less likely to rupture your colon, kill you, and then keep you from becoming famous on the internet after your death, of course. Famous on the internet as the video of you having sex with a horse circulates around. Have you found that video yet, Randy? No. If you don't find that soon, I may have to fire you. Of course I can fire you. Just because you work for free doesn't mean you can't be fired. Alright, so anyway, we will be back soon. We will continue the saga of stating the obvious for all of you stupid people. I can assure you that I will definitely not be having sex with a horse as a bottom or a top. My colon is not going to get ruptured.